Good evening, everyone. We're so excited to have Jame SanGeorge, who's an employee at North Carolina African Services Coalition, to share with us tonight about how our church can get involved with helping to resettle some of our Afghanistan neighbors. And so I'm going to read a bio that Jame sent, and it'll give us a real flavor for how she was called to the work that she was doing, and also an interesting relation to Christ United Methodist. So Jame was born in Greensboro, and her family moved to Stokes County, where she said her parents wanted to live like Little House on the Prairie. They had an outhouse, lived in a one-room house, which was built by her dad. She has 3 sisters and a foster brother. Their family moved back to Greensboro the week after she graduated from high school. And she remembers sitting in her nice bed with her down comforter, bored, a little depressed, thinking, what is this life about? And when she was about 19 years old, and then she read Streams in a Desert, which was a devotion that her grandmother gave her. The Lord comforts us so that we can comfort others, from 2 Corinthians 1. And that verse changed her life. She started volunteering with refugees soon after reading that scripture. And when she saw something in the church bulletin about volunteer teaching English to refugees, she went on to graduate from the College of Charleston. She visited, studied, or did mission work in 25 or so countries. She lost count. She thought she'd marry someone from another country, but she ended up meeting her husband, Scott SanGeorge, in the hallway of Grace Community Church. And 16 years later, they have 6 kids, 3 through them and 3 that they informally adopted. They came as refugees from Eritrea, which is a country I'm not even familiar with.
Beside Ethiopia.
Thank you, Jame. And she brought them into their home almost 5 years ago. She's co-sponsored with her family and church 5 different families. She teaches ESL at GTCC and now part-time at African Services Coalition, helping to organize and guide churches and community groups to sponsor refugees. And the most relevant line to many of our Christchurch family is that her mother-in-law is Dorothy SanGeorge, who's joined our Zoom meeting tonight. And she helps us and helps others too. And we know that because we've seen Dorothy and her mission in life. And so I'm thrilled to introduce Jame. I have known Millian McKeon, who is the executive director of African Services Coalition, for probably about 8 years now through work we've done together as nonprofits. And so really excited to have Jame with us and to share the work that they are doing.
Thank you. And one thing, my parents, when we lived in that place with the outhouse, my dad was building an earth shelter. So he built a big underground house with all glass in the front. So the one-room cabin was temporary. And then we lived in a house in a hill with skylights, and it was really cool. But anyway, that's a little bit about me. But so thank you for having me to share with you all. And I'm sure that you all have seen on the news the past couple of months about what's happening in Afghanistan. And so this presentation is general, because some people don't know about refugees and stuff. So this is a little general, but NCASC is the North Carolina African Services Coalition. And all those who partner with us do more than help families survive. They help them live fulfilling and flourishing lives. So we really want to help them become self-sufficient, because they're coming here because they can't return home. And this slide, I think, is really important because some of you may have sponsored before, or this could be your first time, but you're not doing it all alone. You're doing it with African Services. And we have a timeline of core services that have to be done. And the case manager is in charge of all those core services. So it takes some pressure off of the sponsors, the churches and the community people that are helping. However, they won't be enrolled in school the first day they're here. It takes time. They may be enrolled the 4th day or the 6th day. The case manager has up to 30 days to enroll the child or the adult. So that's something we have to be patient with, because the case managers are working with lots of families, the families from Afghanistan and coming in from other countries, from the Congo, Sudan, Eritrea, Cuba. And so the agency works, the case manager works with the family for 3 months, and they help them find a home. They help them get food. They give them pocket money, help them apply for food stamps. And so that's a new thing that the Afghans, we thought, were not going to get Medicaid or food stamps, but they will be able to now, but we don't know how soon. We're waiting for that to be processed. But a good relief is that for sponsors to know, and I'll make sure that the team has this document so you know, okay, this is going to get done. And so how the sponsor can help is help with these things with transportation. So for example, if there's a family of 7, the caseworker would go to the appointment to the school, but they would call the team leader of the sponsor team and say, hi, could you meet us at this date, at this school, at this time? And then the sponsor leader would reach out to the team and say, who can meet us at this time? Who can provide transportation? So it's just really good to know that the case managers are there.
Jamie, before you leave that last slide, someone's asked what RMP stands for.
Oh, good. That is resettlement and placement. And so resettlement and placement core services. And I think that is what and we'll see another slide, they receive cash assistance. It's close to $1,200. And that is from the resettlement and placement money. And the agency holds that money and uses that money to put down their rent and deposit if the sponsor team doesn't have that, to buy groceries, to give them pocket money, to help them get phone service, bus passes. So that's resettlement and placement. That's a good question. Any other questions on that slide? So within 3 months, all of the things are completed. You know, it'll happen before that, but they have up to 3 months to get, certain things have to be done within the first week, within 5 working days. Okay, let's see. Okay, next slide. And we're calling this community co-sponsorship because we're working with churches, so we want the churches to partner with us. But we also are looking for community groups too. If people aren't in a church, they can sponsor. If it's like a neighborhood group, they can sponsor. And so the goal is to partner to assist them in becoming self-sufficient quickly and thoroughly as possible. And so we're learning about that, about boundaries. You know, every family that I've sponsored, it's been different. And I'm still friends with some families. And now one of the moms, the little girl still gets off the school bus at my house every day, but and I take her to dance. But the mom picks up her and my daughter and drives them home after dance class. So now we're like friends, from a friendship going on. So. What you might ask, what help is available to you from North Carolina African Services Coalition? And so we provide this one-on-one community sponsorship staff. So there is a full-time lady that has the same job as I do. Her name is Vicki. She's wonderful. She's worked in these types of organizations for a long time, and she's full-time and she is great. And then I am there part-time. And but if you ever have any questions along the way, we're there to help you get organized and get ready. And then once the flight is coming in, then we kind of pass you off to the case manager, and then the team leader of your team is in contact with the case manager about dates. But we will still, the sponsorship people, we will still have ongoing meetings to discuss, problems or good things or how we can make this better for next groups. And as we're learning, we're learning through this process. And we'll help you, the information we find when a family's coming, and the flight information and any housing updates. We are really looking for apartments that are in nicer areas if possible. The family that I go to Grace Community Church, and we just sponsored, a family just came in on Saturday, and they're very appreciative of all that we've done to make their house look beautiful, but they really don't like their neighborhood, and it's a little scary. Like, there's 3 pit bulls outside of their house. There's not a lot of rules there. So I told them that we're looking, it's really hard, but once you get, they get a job and get 3 pay stubs, it's easier to get an apartment in other areas. So if you know of any apartments, and I know Debbie Taylor with West Market, she's been talking to an apartment complex at Glen Haven Apartments. So she might have something there. We do have, if you want to donate for tax deduction, you can do that. We have letterhead, and also if you donate, but you can do it through your church also. There's different ways to do it. If you can do it through your church, I think that might even be easier, because you can just get to your funds as quickly as you want to. But another option is you can donate to African Services online. You can Google NCASC and donate, and then in the memo you would write Afghan Allies / and then your church group, if you want it to go towards your family. And this was about the core services that African Services, they help with the housing and furnishing and utilities and healthcare and referrals and food and clothing. However, if your church says, yes, we can find a home, and yes, we can fill it up, like my church ended up having extra furniture. It's amazing what people have in their basements and such. Then we say, yes, go on and fill the home up. And Barnabas Network, we got a mattress from them. So that can be a split thing, or African Services can do all the fixing the house up, or the church can do all of that. So every sponsor team is a little different. Okay. And African Services has different opportunities for the people coming in, and they help them with immigration, because all of the people that come in, and especially the Afghans, their paperwork is a little different. And so the case managers are going through their paperwork and seeing what they've already applied for. Did they apply for a parolee Afghan? Did they apply for a different designation? And then they're passing it on to Elon Law School, and the students there are going to help process their paperwork. So that's helpful. And so they have 3 months with the case management, but if they need more, they can get more help there. and they can secure counseling for trauma victims. And this was the RMP, resettlement and placement. So each family receives funds, and so each person, this is the exact amount, I guess, $1,225 per person. And if it's not spent, like for example, if a church pays for a lot of their things, then at the end of 3 months, they will get a check. So there's different ways you can do it. The church can pay for their rent and utilities and furniture, and then they get the money, or then they get this money at the end, or they can use this money, and then whatever the church raised, they could give it to them later to help buy a car or other things that they need. So this is for each person. So for example, a family just came in of 2 people, and so they had a much smaller amount. And so that church, Starmount Pres, is helping them. And so they went on and paid their, I think, rent and the deposit. So if you have a bigger family, there's more money to go. These families are resourceful people who are highly motivated to begin new lives and pursue their hopes and dreams. The cultural and ethnic diversity and variety resources in the city of Greensboro make this a wonderful place for them to resettle, but it can also be expensive. Every dollar raised and designated by co-sponsors will directly benefit the families. And so pre-arrival, what can you do to help a family? So to choose one person to be in contact with African Services from your committee. Ask for volunteers who have a heart for outreach. 10 to 12 people is a good size. And everybody has different gifts, right? Some people may be able to raise money. Some people may be able to drive and do transportation. Some people might be able to collect furniture or organize that. So there's lots of different things you can do. And you're already doing this, informing your congregation or group. That's wonderful. I mean, that's how I first got involved with refugees, from seeing it in the bulletin at my church to volunteer teaching English. So you putting this in your bulletin, might change someone's life, might give them purpose. Let me move this around a little bit. Pre-arrival preparation and housing. So this is how you can do it. Advertise the need for household furniture, beds, and watch out, because as soon as you tell your churches, people will be calling you saying, we've got this, we've got that, where do we put it? So right now I'm saying, just hold on to your stuff. We don't have any apartments right now available. Just soon. So it's just organizing the stuff that would go into the apartment. One church, one of the New Gardens church, a few years ago when they helped a family from Iraq, they put a newsletter out in our neighborhood, and then a guy came, then we all contacted what we want to donate, and a guy came through on a Saturday and filled up the back of his truck with all the furniture in the neighborhood, and then they took it to, I think they took it to the basement of their church then. So everyone works a little different. And we will work together to locate and pay for deposits and rent and connect utilities. So like, for example, our Starmount Pres, they've volunteered a lot, and they have helped a lot of refugees. And they just said, okay, we're going to turn the power on. We're going to turn the lights on, because they wanted to get the keys to the apartment to go on and furnish it. And African Services, I guess it was taking some time. We had to fill out all this paperwork with people's names in it, and it was a process. So, and that's the good thing about our Thursday meetings for the leaders, is because they people can share what they've done and what's been helpful. Let me see. If I can go to welcome to your new home. I'm pushing page down and it's not going. Let me see. Pre-arrival. Okay, there we go. I had to push another thing. These are some of the apartments right now where this is a picture of them, where people are living right now. This is off of East English Street. I think this one is at Glen Haven. And we have some other documents. Robbie, I don't know if you received it. I'd sent them to Debbie Taylor. It's like a sign-up sheet, and I might have that to show also. That makes it very clear where it's like a Google Doc and people can sign up for what they want to help with. So
we do have that, and we have it, and we'll be making it available to our congregation.
Wonderful, wonderful. And so the money that your congregation gathers, then you all would decide what you want to spend money on and what you want the agency to spend the money on. Let me see. Right. Okay. Oh, so my partner, Vicki, who works full time, she just added this slide in here. So this was us Saturday night at the airport. And this is this is me, and this is my son and my husband. So this is Dorothy's family and my sister-in-law. So we, and my other son and my other daughter, and then some people from our church, my cousin. So we all made signs. We knew that we had children in our family. So we went to the dollar store and we taped lollipops on the signs. And then then they wrote their name on it. So we'll have the family's name before they get here. And then they wrote it in their language. I guess they Googled how to write welcome. So the families have asked us not to post pictures of them on Facebook because it could be dangerous for them. So I'm telling sponsors they can post pictures of their team on Facebook. So that was the flight at 10 o'clock at night coming in, and it was an hour late, so it came in at 11. So, oops, let me go back up. And some people have brought flowers and balloons, and when I got the key to the apartment that we were going to fill up, I went and made there are 6 people in the family. I went into Lowe's and I made 6 copies of the key, and then I gave them to the 6 different team members so they could come and go in the apartment. And I wouldn't have to go over there each time. So that made it a lot easier. So that was exciting. My colleague, she wrote a lot of information on this stuff. But the first night after the airplane, when they arrive, the case manager will go with them back to the house. And then it's nice if 1 or 2 sponsors can go too, to help drive them, depending how big the family is. And the sponsor and an interpreter will go with you. So the case manager and the interpreter, they explain how the toilet works, the shower works. They show them where the first aid kit is. They show them all the basic things in the house. And this list is just so you will reiterate the next day. The sponsor doesn't have to explain all that night. The case manager has a checklist they go over, but these are things to continue to explain, like what to put in the toilet, what not to put in the toilet. Same thing with a microwave. What is a microwave if you have one for your family, what not to put in it. So just basic things for the family. And then another idea was another church had told us that they take pictures of the people that are going to be hands-on with the family, and they make a little poster. And so one person in our team did this. They We all emailed a picture of ourselves or maybe sent it through a text. And she did a printout and had a picture of the 6 people and wrote their names by it. So the family would know these people are your friends, these people are safe, you can go with them. So that was a neat idea. And also, African Services, our director, Million, has organized that a organization from Durham is bringing prepared food for them for the first night. Even if they get in at 10 o'clock at night, they're bringing it, and it's halal, I'm probably not saying that correctly, halal food, and that's meat that's been prepared the way that they will eat it. And we have a food list that the sponsors can buy the staples, rice and flour and such. And we have a special list that's of what Afghan culture, the food that they like. But they will have a warm meal delivered from this place in Durham. And so these are the things that were on the timeline that happen afterwards once they get here. Well, this is. And so this says Social Security application, if not previously filed because the Afghan people have been in a military base for 21 days or more. So many of them have already done the Social Security application. And then it should be coming in a few weeks once they get here. And so the case manager is in charge of all of these things, and they would ask the sponsor to help with transportation with this. Or, for example, the first family that got here, the man had major leg problems. He was shot. You might have read it in the news, protecting U.S. military, and he didn't have medical yet because that hadn't passed through Congress, and we're still waiting for the Medicaid. And the Pastor Mike Uzi found out a doctor that would help him. And so we all have different connections. So sponsors are good for that too, for connections when we're like waiting to hear what the next thing we need to do. All children that are in 3rd grade above can go to the newcomer school. And that is a public school in Greensboro, and they have bus transportation. And the adults, I think that's on the next slide, can go to the New Arrivals Institute. And if you're kindergarten through 2nd grade, you will go to the neighborhood school. But when you're 3rd grade and up, you go to the newcomer school. And the case manager will do healthcare referrals and job training referrals. And we just hired an employment specialist. And so they've said, if you hear of a job, for us to tell the employment specialist, and they will help them get on. And this is the New Arrivals Institute. And this is taught by GTCC teachers. I've taught there before. And it's wonderful. It's 5 days a week, 9:30 to 12:30, and they have free childcare for 6 months to 4-year-olds. And they also have citizenship classes there, all these different programs. There's also a social worker there, and a nurse from Cone Health, I think, is there twice a week, and a mental health nurse was there. Now she's on Zoom, but I just asked, could she come there like once a week? Because if she's there physically, I think the students would be able to, it'd be easier for the students to see her quickly. But this is on West Market Street at Peace Church. Peace Church. I know this is a lot of information. And we help them locate employment and job applications, American work culture, interview skills, and all of this. There could be someone on your team that wants to help practice with them, interviewing for a job or doing generic job applications. And we do have interpreters. It says find someone who speaks family's language, but it's been really neat that a handful of people from Afghanistan have stepped up and wanted to volunteer and interpret. And so that's been exciting. There's a man from my church that's from Iran, and he speaks their language also. So he's been helping a lot. And so a lot of them are speaking Dari, and that's the same language as Farsi. It's just a different accent. I just learned that. And the case manager will show them how to pay their rent, but that's also how a sponsor can show them if they live in an apartment complex, also where you drop off your check or how you pay for it. They may have to do a money order. And we learn a lot while we're helping families, because a lot of us may not have, ridden a bus, city bus lately, or paying rent at a little apartment. So we're learning while we do this. And the sponsor team helping with transportation is so helpful, because the case manager will do the first appointment. And then if there's someone on your team that wants to help with transportation to appointments, then they could be in touch with the case manager. And then you could do the follow-up appointment so they fit your schedule also. In jobs, this is a good time because there's lots of jobs right now. So that is great. But anything that you know of, please let us know so we can tell our employment specialist. A travel loan, you may ask, well, how did they get here? So the flight was paid for by the International Organization of Migration. That's my big doggy. Let me pause myself. I'll mute myself 1 second.
While Jamie stepped away, remember you can put questions in the chat, and we'll ask her to address those in a few minutes. Or when she finishes, you can unmute yourself and ask a question. No problem with that.
Okay, thank you. So they will be, they pay back their flight, but there's no interest, and they can pay back a little bit at a time. And I tell them that it's important to pay it back because that goes for the next refugees coming. So the payments are used to reimburse the U.S. government for the funds provided to the IOM transportation. And this is the fun part. This is what I like to do. So when you're with a family, taking them out, showing them around. If your church has an event, or just taking them to the park, or the other night, I think it was, Monday, our family got in Saturday night, and Sunday night, we picked them up and took them to Lake Daniel Park and brought a Frisbee and a soccer ball. And then another lady brought her little kids. And we had an interpreter with us that just came along for fun. And we were just there for like an hour and a half. And then another person from our church brought food from Nazareth Bread on Market Street to send back with them. Another warm meal. So just doing fun things with them. And I know your churches do lots of youth activities. So
Nazareth bread?
And most of them are Muslim, but it's still fun for them to do something still fun to invite them. They won't be offended if you invite them to your church. We would just be respectful if they say no, thank you. Okay, but you can always take them to a park or any activities at your schools. And then visit the family. And so we had such a big group at our church, we had to say, okay, we don't want to bombard them. So we made like a sign-up list for different people to go every other day or something like that. But to visit them, at least have maybe four or so people who really want to be hands-on, so you can visit them and take them to social events. You could plan a welcome reception. You could have a potluck at your church or at a park. I think something outside is great to just enjoy the beauty here. And then please let us know once your family gets here, and if there's anything that they need, then please let us know. First, let the case manager know, but if there's something, if the person is too busy, then please let us know so we can help. And the most important part is to be a friend. To be a friend. And I think that is, this is a good resource. If you have an Apple phone, you can look up these, and it is a free app with a live interpreter. Another church used that and told us it was really great. So it's people volunteering their time. So the first resource is our website. To look at this one. My colleague wrote this one. And yes, you can get a copy of this slideshow. I emailed it to Cindy, so she has it.
And I can go ahead and just attach it to the chat, if that's okay with you, Jamie?
Yes, please do.
Okay, I will.
Because it looks like that these are all live, so you can click on them and go directly to them. And the Settle In app is for the refugee. This is for the client, for the person coming from the other country. It talks about resettling. I haven't used all of these. I've just kind of glanced at them. But I think that is it. So we ask teams to be ready to help out for about 6 months. With getting the families self-sufficient and functioning effectively in our community. And this is my contact, and this is my colleagues, and these are our cell numbers or personal numbers. And we're excited that your church is and are partnering with other churches and wanting to help do this.
Thank you, Jamie. A few questions have come in while you were talking. The first one, obviously your case managers are going to be very busy. How many case managers do you have?
Good question. We have 4, and they're hiring another one.
Okay.
So hopefully soon.
There was a question also about the medical status of the folks when they arrive as it relates to COVID or anything else. Oh,
good question. So good comment. For COVID, they will have had at least the first vaccine, and possibly both of them or the Johnson & Johnson. So the case manager looks in, when they get here, they have this white bag. It says IOM. It has all their important documents in it. And it says their vaccine status, like if they've had one or if they've had both. And they also have to get COVID tested the 4th or 5th day once they're here. They've been tested before they get on the flight, and been free from COVID, but then also they have to get tested 4 or 5 days after they're here to make sure they were still clear from the airplane and everything. And then they're supposed to get Medicaid, and so that's in process. Emilian, the director, said that he was waiting from the Department of Health to give him the green light. But Congress just passed that they should get refugee benefits.
Jame, beyond COVID vaccines, how about other vaccines? You know,
Yes. Yes. What I've read is that they're getting polio and other vaccines in the base. I just took some notes. In the bases. And then the children will have to get all the vaccines, the other vaccines, up to date before they're in school. But they get all these since they've been in the military base for 21 days or more, then they're getting all their vaccines.
One question that someone's had is about where they are arriving from.
So far, they've been arriving from El Paso and New Mexico.
So they've been in the States for a while.
Yes, like the family that we just sponsored has been, been in El Paso since August.
And another question was about their skills or their backgrounds as far as jobs are concerned. And I know it varies, but
it varies. So the family that my church is sponsoring, the dad was a tailor, and we have some connections because the interpreter is a tailor for 2 different companies here, and the place in Friendly Shopping Center, Nader's Alterations. We were going to talk to him and see if he was hiring. So he's a tailor, and the mom was a school teacher, but the mom taught kindergarten, but she doesn't speak English, so she'll have to get her English up. But then they have a 20-year-old and a 19-year-old. They were in the university and speak really good English. So jobs will be easier for them. And hopefully we can get their transcripts so they could get into college or something, because they said that they had transcripts that they could get to, like online.
Jamie, when I was by Nadir's probably a week ago, he had a sign up that he was hiring. So hopefully that will work out.
Hopefully it will. Yes. That's what I heard, that he was hiring. So we're like, okay. Yes. So, and every family is different. You know, if they come here with the English language, that's going to be much easier. And if they have job skills that can transfer, much easier. But we just don't know who's coming. We get their names. Like, so maybe we'd get a family's name today, and we would have the names and the ages, and then maybe a week later, we're getting that their flight is coming in 3 days. It's a short amount of time.
I'm going to ask at this point if there's anyone else who wants to ask Jamie a question. Just unmute yourself and ask.
Jamie, have we heard any predictions about numbers, like how many families or people have already arrived and how many are we expecting in the immediate triad area?
Through our organization, we're expecting between 150 and 200 coming to live in the triad, and we've probably had 20 people arrive so far. And so we're expecting 2 families per week. The families could be, or 2, they call them cases, 2 cases. So it could be one person, or it could be a family of 7. We don't know. Coming per week until March. But the numbers was 150 to 200 people. because the other organizations, I think Church World Service, they're expecting, I think, 100 people to resettle, but I think that they are looking outside of Greensboro. In World Relief also, but they're looking more in Winston, I think, and High Point.
Thank you.
If you think about that number, 150 to 200, depending on the size of the family, that may be 40 families. And, to place 40 families in a town that has a housing shortage now is going to be a challenge.
But I think we have to know that God is much bigger than this. I was up at 4 o'clock in the morning when I first took this job for a few days, and I just had to realize God's got this.
Well, I want to thank Jamie so much for taking her time to educate all of us. I will say on behalf of Christ Church, and I think the other churches are pretty much in the same situation. People want to know what they can do. And, there's 3 or 4 things that come to mind. And Jamie's mentioned financial contributions are always wonderful. And you do that through your church and just mark the contribution refugee resettlement fund. We need household goods to furnish the apartment once it's obtained. So there'll be each church is probably doing it a little different, but there'll be some way to have a list of those things and people can sign up. The third thing is, which is probably the biggest thing really, is to find a few folks who are passionate about this and want to help lead the effort. And by lead the effort, it could be coordinating transportation, as Jamie mentioned, that piece of it, or helping with tutoring the children, or some task that is going to be required to make these people reach self-sufficiency. And that's the biggest thing. So if you're interested, please get in touch with the person at your church. I think everybody probably knows who that is at Christ Church. You can get in touch with me or one of the pastors, and we'll connect you. And then the other thing I'd say is, you pray. Pray for the entire effort and the folks who are involved and the folks who are coming. They're coming into this country with a completely foreign country with very little, and they need our prayers.